I do not own this character, or rights to Disney. Today I'm going to be doing a block shade of Leona from Star Darlings, a show from Disney. I do believe the show has been discontinued, I think. But there was a web series and that's what I watched. I do believe there was also a show that aired on Disney Channel, but I didn't have that. And now they don't really air the shows, it's a cancelled show, so. This style of block shade I believe originates from Scratch. If you don't know that, that's sort of a coding site for younger demographics to teach them how to do coding. But it's basically where you use fewer tones to create the image. So here I'm doing the background where I try and use a complementary colour to the main colour of the character, which in this case is yellow. So I'm choosing blue just because I don't want to use purple, I don't know, but I just think blue helps bring that yellow out a bit more. Eyelashes are very hard when it comes to this sort of style, just because you want them to stay blocky, so you can't draw every eyelash, but these characters have every single eyelash drawn on, so it's basically, where do you stop and draw the line? I don't really like the way the nose turned out. I don't think it really works, but it's sort of how it just turned out, so there's not much I can do. I do believe that I changed it a little bit later. Here I'm doing the eyes, and for the characters they use bold white, which I don't really like. I think it's a bit too, how do I say this? It's a bit too bright and really takes away the more naturalistic look of the character. So I've used a grey. And here is where I fix the nose a little bit. Still does not look right, but I'm not really sure how to fix that, and I don't think I end up changing it. If I did this again, I would try and change that. The eyes in these characters are two-toned, which I think is a very interesting stylistic choice. I wonder if they could really do anything with that. So here I'm doing the pupil, and in the original picture, the pupils are pure black, which again I don't like due to the idea of pure black being just a little bit too bold and not natural for the character. So I used a bit more of a brown, which you can't really see in this picture, but it is brown. The lips are glittery, which I didn't notice when I was watching the show, but apparently every character's lips are glittery in this show. I decided to not do anything with the glitter just because I think it might ruin the blockiness of this drawing, really, the blockiness of the style. The necks of the characters are really quite small, and I think that might just be a stylistic choice to sort of show off the hair a little bit more, since the hair does seem to be a big thing in this show. A lot of characters have very big, poofy hair. The mesh. The mesh I had quite a bit of trouble with when I do it on. These characters have quite a few intricate little things going on about them. For example, like these little rings on her top, which you can see later on a bit. These little rings that you see, I haven't noticed them when I was watching the show. Although I did only watch quite a few episodes. I only watched, I'd say 10-ish, that's what I remember. And I did only watch the web series, so I'm not sure what went on in the actual show. To talk about the show, every character is meant to be a zodiac sign. For example, this character is called Leona and she is Leo. So Leos have stereotypically a very star of the show demeanor, and she emulates that perfectly. And they didn't really have more characterization other than traits of their zodiac sign, but I think that maybe in the show they had more character depth than just I want to be the star or pink. One thing I didn't really like was the darker areas on her shirt, which are sort of a browny red colour. I just really didn't like it, but I decided to keep it just because that's what I saw in the drawing. The mesh top, which we have come to here, I really didn't know how to do in a blockier style, so I just ended up doing it how you would a regular mesh top. But I don't really like the way it turned out. It just takes away from the sort of boxy style of just tones that I had, and I just really don't like the way it turned out. But the mesh here in the top area is a little bit better than the ones on the sleeves, mainly just because I think I got a bit better at it and figuring out where the lines would be and how that would work. But it's still not that amazing, and I don't really like the way it turned out, so I sort of de-opacified it, try and hide it a bit, but it still didn't really work out. Her little star ornaments in her hair, I think they're quite pretty. I would enjoy having these. Another thing that you may have noticed in these characters is that they have little sparkles in their hair, and I'm not really sure what that's meant to be. And I do think it sort of takes away from the character's sort of face, mainly because the face is hidden between all these layers of hair. And a lot of these characters have quite interesting hair, especially the main-ish character, Sage. She has many things going on with her hair. But I'm not really sure where the glitter comes in. These characters are extremely glittery, I've noticed. So we've come down to the hair now, which is one of the most intricate parts of these drawings, especially with these characters from this show, because you definitely have to choose where the lights and darks are, and later on, if you disagree with yourself, you have to draw that on. And I definitely think that there are definitely parts of these drawings where you can't be sure whether that's a light or a dark or a medium tone. It could be anything. And that's one of the reasons I don't really like drawing hair in this style, but these characters have so much of it, so I'm sort of forced to, which I think is a good thing, honestly, to be able to continue on with the style and make it something different and practice. I definitely think that a block shaded style is the best one for suggestion, for suggesting shapes and seeing how people interpret them, because isn't that what art is all about? It's all about, hey, this is hair, but it isn't really. It's just lines I drew. And I think that's basically what art is. No matter how hyperrealistic your style is, it really is just you putting marks on paper and people interpreting them as something. And that's what I find fun about art. You can see how little it takes for you to see something, and really you can take it any way you like. For example, there is some rather wonderful art of spaghetti as a dress. So someone draws basically a person, and then they put spaghetti on that piece of paper and it becomes a dress. And it's interesting how without the woman in the dress, you would just see it as a pile of spaghetti. With the woman, you think it's a dress. So I decided to create two medium tones for the hair here, mainly just because there were two tones and I didn't really want to make it all yellow because I thought that would be a bit bright and it might not create that contrast between the top and the hair which I wanted. So I made it to a bit of like a ginger brown colour. And now I am doing the shading, which is one of the harder parts here because I didn't want to have two different tones of shading even though this is what they had in the original image. Because the darker part of the hair and the lighter part of the hair really had different tones and I had to sort of just draw it in a way which made sense, which I don't really know how that worked out because the shading colour I chose is really quite dark while the yellow colour is quite light. So it sort of creates a contrast which I think is a bit much. It really never ceases to amaze me how much hair these characters have, and it's honestly a very interesting stylistic choice because these characters have quite a lot of things going on with them and lots of different elements. For example, they have their very intricate hairstyles, they have incredibly glowy clothing, but their faces are really quite simple. They're sort of just big eyes, small nose, the lips, eyebrows, eyelashes. And it's interesting how everything else sort of brings them together, all the extraness of it. And one of the things I have noticed with these characters especially is that they have a very strong colour theory going on. For example, Libby, another character I have block shaded and is the videos on my channel. Libby, one of her character traits is that she really likes pink, and therefore she has a lot of pink in her character design. Leona is meant to be a sort of bright, positive character, so she wears a lot of yellow. And I think that's interesting, really, how these colours sort of just become people. And here's another thing, the highlighting on the original piece was straight white, which again I don't like as a stylistic choice. So I decided to turn it into more of a beige. I really don't like beige in general, but in this piece I had to just make it work. I really do wonder how they characterize these characters in the show, because from what little I can remember, the web series I watched was mainly just random sort of stories. There wasn't really like an overarching plot to it all, it was all sort of just I do think that in the web series they sort of copped out with a lot of the characterization, and I do think the web series came before the show, which explains since they were really just experimenting with how it would work and how everything would come together to become a character. And that isn't terrible in itself, but it's still a little bit weirder because the web series was a lot more choppy and I haven't seen the original show. And yeah. This video really did turn out to be a bit of a roundabout, waffly video, and I'm sorry if that got on your nerves, but I guess I haven't really scripted these videos, and this is the first one where I'm doing audio with it as well, so it's a little bit odd to do it, honestly, because I'm talking into a screen, but hopefully you liked it.